Hello, ladies and gents. Welcome to GX, and this is Iran's Mullahs. I don't know who that is. Is that supposed to be like the anything below Supreme Leader, Ayatollah? I don't know. Iran's Mullahs thought they were winning the war. Then this happened. By channel Max Afterburner, obviously. The latest video. Max usually has the latest information. That's why I like to watch this channel. B-50, of course, B-52s are involved. Why not? One thing I've learned in this conflict is that US's main bomber is B-52, regardless of what. They are the heavyweight thing they are going to use. I guess based on the integration, a lot of things they do just logistical wise, B-52s are better for them. Because B-1 is like supersonic. They are fast and everything. B-2 are silent. But I guess B-52, just the way they are, you can use it in many different ways. Right? A lot of bombs fit in it. Maybe like it's given to different type of like squads that's just available. I don't know, but B-52s are the most used. B-52 Stratofortress bombers with up to 70,000 pounds of weapon, including JASSM-ER standoff missiles and JDAMs, are ready as Iran rejects the US ceasefire proposal. And Iran has rejected. I didn't know that happened. So Iran just said like, yeah, we reject this. Like, oh, no more talk. Is that it? I feel like Trump is just buying time. I recently reacted to, I'm going to post after this, I guess, or maybe I post already. I don't know the timing. A video about that basically from Navy Decoded, how, like Boxer, another amphibious marine ship is on its way. The Tripoli still hasn't made it there. So maybe Trump was buying time with this week-long thing. People are saying, oh, Trump doesn't know what he's doing. Trump is not the guy sitting in office just doing all the like logistical things. Military does it. And US military is not some like something that just caught off guard. I know people just say it like, oh, Trump caught off guard. What does that even mean? Military has a plan, right? They're just buying time probably until the ships reach there. And they'll just dominate the area. Is US military? I don't know. That was my intro rant there. Let's watch the video.
Day 27 of Operation Epic Fury, and right now, US B-52 Stratofortress bombers are standing tall and are unleashing hell on Iran. The regime is basically in full panic mode at this point, with these B-52s approaching 80 years old, releasing up to 70,000 pounds of weapons each time. Each mission they fly.
80 years? Whoa! That's very old. After World War II? Or was it around World War II? That's insane.
Into Iran, including massive salvos that combine JASSM-ER. Those are those extended range joint air-to-surface standoff missiles for you acronym lovers out there. Those are for standoff strikes. Plus, once those ripple off, now the buff, the big ugly fat fellow, has JDAMs that can be dropped directly over targets since the US Air Force has air superiority along with the US Navy. Reports confirm a Marine Expeditionary Unit, multiple at this point, 2,500 Marines along with the 82nd Airborne, up to 1,000 are on the way to the region.
Oh yeah, paratroopers are going there. I forgot about that. Yeah, 82nd. I'm glad he reminded me of that. Like I saw the news yesterday or something, or was it 2 days ago? Yeah, paratroopers are going there. Are they the same one in the Boxer? Because that would make sense. I don't know.
The B-52s are perfectly positioned to clear the path for them with devastating long-range strikes.
Wait a minute, paratroopers, so they're going to be Air Force, right? Not the Marines? So they're different, I'm going to guess.
In the last 8 hours, though, A-10 Warthogs are hammering Iranian-backed PMF Proxies, so proxy militias of Iran that are, on paper, part of the Iraqi military near Mosul and Habayani. These Stratofortress bombers, though, are positioned from places like Al Udeid, Fairford, air bases in the UK, and they're sending a clear message. America brings overwhelming long-range firepower anywhere on the map in Iran at this point. And as Chuck Norris would say, the B-52s don't roll in and drop bombs. The sky opens up and requests the B-52 to strike the IRGC. What happens next is going to change everything you've heard about that old warhorse, the B-52, how it is still dominating the battlefield in Iran, bringing the total targets hit now, thanks to the B-52, to 10,000. 1,000. Let's pop to X for some of the latest breaking news. Here we are on X, my friends, and this is the latest breaking news from Admiral Cooper, the CENTCOM commander. Let's have a quick listen.
As I mentioned in my last update, refueling tankers are extending our reach, and fighters and bombers are delivering precise strikes against our primary objectives. Let me highlight our B-52 bomber force, which is executing a high volume of strikes into Iran and demonstrating our unmatched dominance in the air. Now in their 8th decade of flight, our B-52 bombers are executing strikes into Iran with up to 70,000 pounds of munitions on each mission. Our B-52 pilots and aircrew embody the courage and resilience of the more than 50,000 American sons and daughters serving in uniform during this operation. There is no adversary too determined, no mission too difficult, and no task too great for our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Guardians, and Coast Guardsmen. I just could not be prouder of our troops, and I know the American people share that same pride.
Wow, so just a really cool highlight there on the B-52 doing work. In its 8th decade, basically a 70-year-old plus doing its thing every single day, helping bring up to that level of 10,000 targets being hit. I mean, just wild. And then here's some interesting fact-checking. False. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps announced a U.S. F-18 fighter was struck over Chabahar using new advanced air defense systems. The truth, no U.S. fighters have been shot down by Iran. And then
Why would F-18 would be over Chabahar? Why would an F-18 from a carrier go all the way there? F-15, I'm like, F-15 maybe. F-16, these are Air Force ones. Maybe they were there from Kuwait or something. Why would F-18 from Lincoln, I'm guessing? No, Lincoln has F-35, right? So that would be from, like, where would F-18 come from? Like, do Air Forces using F-18 right now? Because that would be weird. I think they're using F-15, F-16, things like that. F-18 would be from like Ford or something. So F-18 at Chabahar port, why would it be there? I don't know.
And this is pretty interesting. This is the USS Abraham Lincoln blasting off. F-18s just doing work. You can see an AIM-9X over here on that F-18.
Oh, you mean Growlers, right? Because they have F-35s and Growlers. So the F-18, even then, why would that be over Chabahar port?
And then this one is actually a tanker, refueling tanker. You can see the bags there. They call these things the 5 bags because it's got 5 beautiful bags of gas on it to pass to different assets. This was just released an hour ago of this video being produced. More precision strikes, eliminating threats presented by the Iranian regime. 10,000 targets, so these are part of what could be being struck by the B-52 with those standoff weapons, even stand-in.
How many targets do Iran have? 10,000 again? How does it have so many military things in the first place? I'm hearing about thousands of targets getting hit and there's still more? That's insane.
In weapons, you can see how Iran is getting a little wily, hiding these one-way attack drones under trees, inside of barns. Anywhere they can get these things at this point, they are trying to hide them because this is the last leg that they have to stand on. This is the last vestige of their bargaining position. The more of these they have, the more guerrilla-style detached units they have, that to them makes them think they're going to keep their regime in power, basically. And then President Trump also just posted this on Truth Social 1 hour ago from the time of this video being released. He said, the Iranian negotiators are very different and strange. They are begging us to make a deal, which they should be doing since they have been militarily obliterated with zero chance of a comeback. And yet
I'm going to say this. Trump might not tell the truth just by political element alone. He might be playing a political game there, pressuring Iran in a different way, creating certain public perception. So when Iranian says like, oh, we are not agreeing to the deal, Trump is like, oh, they're definitely agreeing to the deal. There might be something between them. Trump might be creating an environment where it seems like Iran is trying to give up. That might cause some kind of infighting in Iran. I have a feeling that Iran is also right, where they don't want to give up, even after all this, because leadership might not be as strong. Like, who's the new leader? Okay, that's the new leader. IRGC is in control. Like, who in IRGC? Like, do they agree like we should give up? Maybe they don't want to give up because what does that mean, right? Coming to any deal is literally means surrender. after 4 decades of what the level of control they had over Iran, would they agree to like giving everything up? So they're in a position like they would not say like, yeah, we give up. So yeah, I think this like a week off was a weird buffer time before Marines get there. There is not going to be a deal. That's the feeling I have. I don't know.
That they publicly state that they are only looking at our proposal. Wrong. They better get serious soon before it's too late, because once that happens, there's no turning back, and it won't be pretty. And in another post, President Trump went on to say, NATO nations have done absolutely nothing to help with the lunatic nation, now militarily decimated, of Iran. The USA needs nothing from NATO, but never forget this very important point in time. President Donald J. Trump. But hey, I'm all for it. I hope NATO gets in the fight a little bit and at least helps somewhat with the Straits of Hormuz. And this just came in as...
It's not about Trump. It's about US military. So if you hate Trump, good for you, but don't confuse Donald Trump with US military. Donald Trump is the leader of US military right now because he's the president, but you should have confidence in your own military. And anyone with any brain knows US military is that powerful that they will never need anyone's help. I've seen too many comments of like, oh, look, Trump got into Iran war, now he doesn't know how to get out, and he's begging for help. Help at what? What are you going to do to help US military? US military is everywhere, too many bases to help every other nation. How are you going to help US military? What does that even mean? Do you even know what you're saying? How does that even how do you even type it down in social media? How does that even work? Oh, Donald Trump needs help. When did anyone help US military for anything? It's usually US military putting their finger in everything. NATO wants to do something, yeah, US military is there, not the other way around. So US military bases, they don't need help. And you can think anything like, oh, Trump had no plan B, Trump doesn't know how to get out. They don't have to get out. They can just keep raising the temperature. US military is one of the only countries who can do that. It might turn ugly and not for the America. That's the effed up part.
Well, Israel says it killed Iran's top naval commander as Trump raises pressure on Iran. Israel said that an airstrike has killed Alireza Tangziri, a key player in Iran's blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. President Trump warned Iranian officials to consider his peace proposal before it's too late. So the straight talk happening right now is that the Straits of Hormuz, the commander who's been in charge of closing that down and enacting total chaos in the area, is now being hit and taken out. So that is
I'm guessing he's talking about the Navy leader of Iran. That was the news, that apparently he's taken out. That's the report. That was the headline. So it hasn't been confirmed, but probably that's the intelligence. And usually when the probably comes from this side, is usually true. Every time US says probably this happened, it happened. That's the history of past 3 weeks. So it probably happened.
a big step to show Iran that the gloves are off when it comes to opening up the Straits of Hormuz, which I think is great. And then also layered US and allied defenses, knocking down most of the ballistic missiles and drones being shot at the partner nations. The big diplomatic play here, US 15-point ceasefire proposal delivered through Pakistani channels, probably offer some sort of sanctions relief, limited civilian nuclear cooperation, IAEA, International Atomic Energy Agency, for you acronym lovers, monitoring of any nuclear rollback, missile production limits, and guaranteed safe passage for US and Western ships through the Straits of Hormuz. But as one might guess, Iran sent a nice little letter rejecting it flat out and came back demanding reparations and security guarantees instead. That's likely what they want. They want to continue doing exactly what they've been doing before, tap along the world, and maybe give a little bit of a concession to make people think, oh, they're so easy to negotiate with. But through all of that, the B-52 Stratofortress can't be fooled. It sits in the background as the ultimate insurance policy and the ultimate negotiation leverage aircraft, capable of flying missions with over 10,000-mile round trips with tanker support to saturate hardened targets deep inside of Iran using those standoff JASSM weapons and the direct JDAM drops right over top of Iran because air superiority is established. But now that you see how the proxies are getting thinned out in Iraq on the ground. Wait until you hear about how Iran's own leadership is reacting to the mere presence of American heavy bombers. Because on the Iranian side, they're still talking tough while looking more and more isolated by the hour. Tehran called the entire US proposal fake news, rejecting it outright. And a senior military spokesperson, at this point, the temporary jobs are basically on Upwork looking for military spokespeople. They're like, hey, can you work remotely? We're pretty much all working remotely at this point. But they're claiming that the Americans are only negotiating with themselves. Iranian officials say they will not negotiate under duress. Well, doesn't look like the duress is letting up anytime soon, so this might be the only.
See, the problem with this is, again, I think the leadership would be in chaos. Leadership is probably in chaos. Because who's leading Iran? Is it the new supreme leader, but he is in coma? Is it someone in IRGC who controls IRGC, some commander? Is he the president of Iran? Like, who's really... The USA could be negotiating with someone who might not be in power. So it's probably confusing there. It probably causes somewhat infighting as well, where everybody's like, "Who? You're not talking to me. Who are you talking to? Like, I'm not negotiating with you. Well, some other guy is." So I think it's a weird time. Like, things might clear up soon, like what was happening. But I think that's what's happening.
Chance that Iran actually has to negotiate. But they're vowing to keep launching missiles until they get full compensation plus zero limits on their missile and nuclear programs. That's likely what they're trying to get if I'm just putting myself in the shoes of this terrorist network. Even now, though, Iran can still threaten to close the Straits of Hormuz to U.S. oil tankers using underwater unmanned vehicles. It's probably one of the biggest and main things. Also, their fast attack boats are being crushed on the land by B-52s, and then once they get moving, that's when you bring in the A-10. That's the guy she told you not to worry about. Oh, the B-52? Yeah, we didn't hit you while you were on land. No worries. We've got depleted uranium rounds, or HEI, high explosive incendiary rounds from the A-10 striking those fast attack craft. But geography and recent losses for Iran and their...
I said, screw all that. Bring in AC-130. What is it? Ghost Rider? What is the name? I forgot. Probably Ghost... yeah. Bring in the flying howitzers. Yeah. It strikes another type of fear in people.
Navy is working against them, and it's very heavily working against them.
I get it. Like, A-10s are there to shoot down drones. AC-130 can shoot down drones. B-52s are bomb things. What would AC-130 do? Figure it out. I don't know. Like, you have A-10, there might as well bring AC-130. AC-130 can do the job of B-52 by bombing certain SAM sites and certain key equipments. There you go.
In these negotiating positions, because Israel just took out the chief of the IRGC Navy, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy, those hardliners that have had a revolver pointed, well, mainly to the head of their own people, and then to the world as well with the nuclear weapon, if they were able to get nuclear weapons. So with these strikes on their top naval commander, strikes on the land with the B-52 decimating their fast attack craft and the rest of their navy, along with the A-10 striking anything that's on the water, this is like the A-10 and B-52 slid into the IRGC's HQ, owned the place, and left the IRGC wondering why they never called them back. Let's hit the numbers and talk about what really matters. Iran's latest missile salvos have largely been swatted down despite aiming at civilian areas near Abu Dhabi and southern Israel. The US ceasefire proposal gave Tehran a legitimate off-ramp on sanctions, nuclear limits, Hormuz shipping, yet they've now doubled down on demands instead. President Trump has made it clear. He said that the war has been won militarily and talks are productive, and America continues to negotiate from strength. He said, we negotiate with bombs. And that's a strategic negotiating position as well, with Iran saying that negotiations are fake news. So at this point, it looks like the Iran hardliners, like President Trump said, they are strange and odd to negotiate with. Who knows who's actually being negotiated with at this point? No one really knows who's actually in charge of Iran. They are probably begging for a deal behind closed doors while trying to look strong to the public because they're desperate. When B-52s show up and are loitering above your country with 70,000 pounds of mixed ordnance, including JASSM-ER standoff missiles, Iran's regime is panicking. They're in full-blown panic mode. They're extremely desperate. They're likely hanging on to any vestige of the ability to strike ships in the Straits of Hormuz as their
Don't want to pause too much, but you know what surprises me?
Iran's
this
regime
thing.
is panicking. They're in full-blown panic mode. They're
See this thing, when it goes in, the wings doesn't fly off as soon as it collides. That's the surprising part. Somehow it stays intact. Look at that. Up, and wing goes with it rather than fly off. Yeah, so that's basically American engineering, because any other, like, yeah, just wing would just fly off as soon as it crashes to the ground. No, it goes with it.
desperate. They're likely hanging on to any vestige of the ability to strike ships in the Straits of Hormuz as their bargaining position. That's all they have. The real question is, how long before Tehran's public defiance actually cracks as well? And will this real strategic pressure actually make that crack, or will most of these hardliners just need to be vaporized? This is where American air power shines bright, though, hitting 10,000 targets, B-52 Stratofortress, the ultimate long-range workhorse, flying missions exceeding 10,000-mile round trips. And the big thing is they can strike hardened facilities. So striking hardened facilities with those 5,000-pound penetrators that could be on the F-15E or the B-52, and then follow those up with 2,000-pound JDAMs, drops right over top of the targets. Now that is huge. The B-52 is perfectly positioned to completely decimate the IRGC's military elements. And to me, that's the whole reason why we've actually hit 10,000 targets, is because of what the B-52 has been doing. Because when the B-52 shows up, basically the IRGC gets bent over and can't do anything but take the full load. That moves us to the 4D chess strategic analysis section. This is degrading Iranian proxies in Iraq with the A-10 gun runs, striking those proxies, showing that the proxies now are under the direct crosshairs of the US military.
I feel like with the Iran things kind of slowing down, the biggest issue would be the proxies from Iraq and other places, Hezbollahs, and yeah. So I think US might focus there more. Israel was already kind of attacking there, like in north side, like Hezbollah and things. Now US might target those places more, especially with the recent attack on the helicopter from Iraqi, like proxies, right? So A-10 might work hard there.
Along with the B-52 bringing it to 10,000 targets struck in Iran. I mean, without that, we'd probably be somewhere around, I don't know, 6,000 or 7,000. I mean, the amount of strikes that the B-52 can do just can't be understated. And this is ultimate pressure on the regime. But their defiant rhetoric basically shows that they are doubling down. The hardliners in the IRGC will likely just go down with the ship. So boots on the ground could be coming, with the B-52 prepping the way. Basically, the B-52 rolling out the red carpet, potentially for that MEU, the Marine Expeditionary Unit, or the MEU. Gotcha for you Marines out there. I know that you call it the MEU, don't worry. But that could be prepping the battlefield for them. Also the 82nd Airborne, 1,000 paratroopers probably rolling into the area, but we don't know. We don't know where they're going.
So yeah, 82nd paratroopers, the Marines are getting there, and also Boxer, another unit, also like with a proper deck for like hovercrafts and everything. I feel like they're preparing to like control the area around Strait of Hormuz, at least, if not more. They might go more from there, like let's attack certain key locations in Iran and control it, right? Because it's like, this is how Trump's presidency has been. We're not doing this, okay, we're doing this. Well, what are you going to do? That's what Trump does. And Trump probably thinks that I'll just say that. Why does it matter? So, like no troops on the ground, no troops on the ground. Oh, it's just in the Strait of Hormuz. Oh, by the way, it's also in Iran. Like we need certain places to control. We can't just bomb them all the time. Well, what's that going to do? Like something like that. They might do that. I don't know. Because they're sending 2 ships now. 2 amphibious ships.
They could be going to Iraq. They could be going to fight different proxy elements that are being struck down now,
there's that.
with eliminating any bargaining position of the IRGC. The hypothetical scenario here is, what if Iran does double down and just tries to fully shut down the Straits of Hormuz? The B-52 Stratofortress could basically carpet bomb all the different areas.
I think India would get involved if that happens. Simple reason of this is affecting India a lot. Even though it's like mostly just social media panic, but it is a panic and it is kind of causing the issue. Now India can find alternative, but that might take time. India needs Strait of Hormuz. So far, even as I speak right now, there are few tankers which are stranded near Strait of Hormuz, which Indian Navy sent warships to escort them. Imagine if an Iran missile or mine hits an Indian warship. What do you think the headline going to be? What do you think is next step going to be? Modi is the only leader in the history of nuclear bombs who said, I don't care if you have nuclear bombs, I'm still going to blow 20 of your military sites. Only country in the history of the world who attacked another nuclear country, which happened last year. Modi was leader. Modi is still the leader. So what do you think happens when a mine hits a nuclear ship? Mine hits a, Indian ship, right? Indian Navy. So if they close Strait of Hormuz completely, India might reluctantly still get involved because India needs Strait of Hormuz. That wouldn't be so good for Iran. India is top 4 country and India is geographically located very close. That would be problematic.
Along the coast of the Straits of Hormuz. What that means is basically just unleashing JDAMs to strike any areas where they could be harboring those drones. Like if you look along the coastline when we do the target reviews during the lives, you can see all these different areas along the coastline that look like they could be military warehouses. I mean, just random warehouses along the coastline that aren't really near any civilian population. It's kind of strange that those are there. And we've seen with a lot of the targets being struck that a lot of those are drone making facilities, maybe even unmanned underwater vehicle making facilities. One of the big things to strike those down would be the lamprey. That is an underwater sea leech.
Why do that near literally at the shore where the beach is? You can see the water. Why put a facility there?
Made by Lockheed Martin that could be in the Straits of Hormuz. Think about putting 100 of those things with an AI net where they all talk to each other. They can spot and see the different underwater unmanned vehicles from the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Not only see them, but strike them down with their own mini torpedoes. And then
Lockheed demonstrated this, but did America put out contract for this? Just because a company came up with a concept and made something doesn't mean USA put contract for it. Because this is like fairly newer thing. And how fast does newer thing applies in actual military warfare? So to me, this feels like they might not be using this because it's too new.
Can launch drones that can go up and loiter and hover and even look for some of these areas where these UUVs are being deposited into the actual ocean itself. That's the capability of that lamprey, and it should be added to the inventory if it's not already. Because that lamprey teamed up with assets like the B-52 striking from above. You've got the lamprey pinching the IRGC from below. Basically, those two systems teamed up come in like trusted wingmen for the Marines, basically a freight train with benefits, giving the Marines all the breathing room they need to do whatever it is that they're going to do. So we'll see what happens as this plays out. What do you guys think happens in the next couple weeks? Let me know in the comments.
What's gonna happen is peace talks not gonna work. I don't think Trump thought they're going to work. Marines will reach there, bombing will increase, and things will just intensify. Will we get news of like anything significant? Maybe not, because that's how these warfares work. Warfare happens at the early times, the news is so intense, then intense things happen, but we don't get the news until we are very close to the conclusion. Things will get amped up. American military works like a serial killer. I've said this in the past. But they're very methodical. They work by the numbers and the books, and it always works. Like how an engineer would work on a certain things. Oh, this is so hard. Yeah, I've trained for this. I'm an engineer. I know how this works. I know it looks hard to you, but this is every day for me. That is how U.S. military works. They already know what to do. They already have contingency in the works. If this doesn't work, I'm going to do this. If this doesn't work, I'm going to do this. 100 contingencies. So I don't know, man. So what's going to happen is like it's impossible for USA to lose. Even Putin was telling Iran to make a deal with USA because he's like, what are you, high? You're not going to win. So yeah, this is just insane. Like the more Iran stress this out, the more damage Iran's going to get, and it's not going to help anyone. They need to make certain type of deal, right? I don't know. Because I don't see Trump backing down without a deal. So yeah. All right, well, if you like my listen, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.